was Control C. I forgot to learn all my shortcuts. Okay, good afternoon, Natasha. Okay, let me introduce the course and then we'll talk. So today is Monday, February 1st. Yes, friends, we're in February. This is week 4 and this is section DD. So we are going to wrap up all the content for test number 1, which is this Friday during, what time? Let's talk about that. What time should we do our test? Can you do 8:55 till 10:45, or do you want to start a little earlier, like 8:30? Can we start at 8:30? Because I need a little buffer time between my 2 tests. Is 8:30 a good compromise? Thank you, Noreen. Okay. So I'm going to post an announcement about that for sure. 8:30, good. Thank you, Sheree. We have, I'll give you about 85 minutes to do your test, which is a lot of time. You're not getting 90 minutes out of me. That's it. No, 85. That's it. 85. So, V, do you not know how bargaining goes? Like, I come in here, you're supposed to meet me. There we go. 83, 85, 60 minutes. No, now you're going the wrong way. Okay, 85 minutes. I might change my mind on that, but that's kind of what I calculated it at. What did I give you last time? That's a good question. What's the last? How much time have I given you max on a test? 200 minutes. Very funny. Shrey, V, you are so lying. I did not give you 100 minutes. It was usually 75, right? So if I give you 85, that's quite a nice chunk of extra time. Thank you, Shrey. I know Natasha wants to kick him to the curb now. I did not give you 120 minutes. You're happy with 85? Thank you, Nini. I appreciate your level-headedness. This V and I are gonna buck up in Bradford and we're gonna have a talk. That's what's gonna happen. You're welcome, Princess. And if you have accommodation, I should have written you. Yeah, pull up my hair, pull up my earrings, pull up my hair, right, Princess? You know what? I've never been in a fight, but that is a very interesting story that I share with my children. I was in grade 2. Some new neighbors moved into the house beside us and they were bullies. They just came in as bullies. And one of them looked at me one day and said, I'm going to fight you. How old am I? 10 years old? So is that her license plate number? I don't know what that is, Veronica. And I was terrified. And the teacher saw it in she looked at me one day, she said, Lorraine, she looked at me the same day, she said, Lorraine, no, let me do it again. So I was terrified, but I didn't tell anybody. That's a license plate number. So then I didn't tell anybody. The next day, I believe this is a God intervention, okay? The next day, my mother decided she wants to dress me up to go to school. Now, my mom's a seamstress, so she decided to put me in one of my Sunday dresses. I don't know why. She comb up my hair nice, part down the middle, put it in 2 ponytails, put ribbons in my hair. I'm going to school looking nice. But in my mind, I'm thinking, this is my last day on earth. I'm going to get beat up in this dress. So I'm at school and I'm at do you guys remember the mechanical pencil sharpener that was mounted to the wall? So I'm there at the pencil sharpener with this, must have had a look on my face, and my teacher, Miss Bethlehem, said to me, Lorraine, you look very pretty today. And I said, yeah, too bad I'm going to get beat up. And because of the way my mother dressed me and because of what I said, she intervened and there was no fight. Somebody type hallelujah in the chat. My God from glory. I tell you, it was a God thing. It really was. It really was. So no, I've never been in a fight. Never been in a physical fight. I should have smacked her. Me. I talk big, but I'm not. Let me do my Michael Jackson. I'm a lover, not a fighter. Remember when you would go up to sharpen a pencil to see the person you had a crush on? Oh. Yeah, I like that Noreen just called Block D. I got backative. That was your move, Mila. You guys are funny. Those were good days, Zoe. Elementary school, those were fun. My daughter was reminding me that when it came to grade 6, no, grade 7, 8, that's when they stopped giving out Valentine's Day cards, which was okay. But then that's also the time when they started being silly because they started getting boyfriends and girlfriends. Yeah, her friends started getting weird. I never wanted to use a sharpener because everyone would stare. I hear you, Veronica. I hear you. When you pass by without trying. Oh yeah, did anyone pass notes? Did you guys do notes in class? Probably text now. Or you passed by another person's class. Ooh, you sent notes, Shrey. Those elementary school dances. Oh my goodness. All right, guys, let's get back to class time. You know this is all being recorded, right? Okay, so the elementary school dance, when I was in school, was girls stayed on one side, the guys stayed on the other side. That was pretty well the whole evening. You had to ask permission to go to the bathroom. Yes. And now we have a few cohorts which are not going to have a prom. They have no prom memories. You have to have proof that you're going to fight. No 100 minutes V. Oh my gosh, look at V. Natasha, why didn't you have a prom? Oh, because you guys just graduated. No, when did you guys graduate? You didn't have your prom. Oh, someone post up the sad emoji. And the grade 8, like my son now, you got your dress for nothing, princess. I'm so sorry. Princess, you must dress up and come show us on the Zoom. Thanks for the cookie, Yin. You had to return it? Okay, at least you got your money back. Yeah, send us some pictures, man. All right, hopefully we'll have a big BSCN graduation party. How does that sound? Have a Zoom prom. That's a good idea. Y'all check me when at the end of at the end of 2021, no, 22, right? April 2022. Write me, we're gonna plan a party. Yes, I had a problem. People, we are wasting class time. Okay, so I did go to my prom. My mom made my prom dress. And I had a date. He was this cute guy that everybody wanted to be their boyfriend. He was older too, right? So he picked me up in a car. Yes, he did. And I made him buy me a corsage. Yes, I did. Yes. Oh, yes. You know, not from my school. I brought an outside date. Hey. Shh. No, he's not listening. Oh, this is material movie. I know. I felt, well, I almost felt nice, except I went to the hairdresser, and instead of giving me this nice sleek press, the woman put up my hair in some style she called mushroom. I gotta show you a picture. Okay, Lorraine's prom picture. I will show you. You're gonna laugh though, because it was 1990. I smell a lawsuit. I was so vexed. I was so vexed. I was so vexed. I didn't smile for most of the night until they played Kool and the Gang. Celebrate good times. Come on. And then I was feeling all right. Yes, I was good. I was good. I was good. Okay, so Lorraine's going to share a prom photo. Friends, are there any topics left over from hemostasis or blood typing? Let me make sure we did capture those. What color are you? You're D or orange? Okay. Blood doping, blood typing. Did we do hemostasis? We must have, because we played Kahoot. Hemostasis. Okay, let's do hemostasis real quick. Excuse me. So I'm going to share clotting blood vessels. That looks like it. Let me share that with you. Thanks for the memories, guys. Got tears in my eyes. Got tears in my eyes. Okay, first I have a question for you. What is the difference between, are you seeing hemostasis on your screen? Great. Hemostasis versus homeostasis. And what's the difference between those two and hemopoiesis? What's the difference? What's the difference? Hi, Laura. I feel so bad for you guys. You didn't have a prom. Oh my. Hemopoiesis, formation of all blood cells. Very nice, Leah. Leah, you're in this chat. Girlfriend, if you say anything to anybody, okay, that's all I got to say. Now, good, Leah, very well done. Natasha, hemopoiesis is making blood cells like platelets, white blood cells, red blood cells. Good. Or a graduation. Oh my goodness, my friends, my heart goes out to you. So like I said to my other class, I officially hate COVID. Officially hate COVID. Right? We had this funeral on Saturday, which would have been, and don't take this the wrong way, the event of the year, because it was a prominent individual in our faith circle. He was a bishop, right? He has 5 children. They're all so wonderful. You know, they spread out across the GT, like they know a lot of people. That funeral would have had at least 1,000 people at it. And we would have dressed up and we would have had a good time. Reminiscing, catching up. These things are like reunions. Oh my gosh, guess where we had to do it? On YouTube. And me talking to my cousin by WhatsApp. I was so vexed. I said, Dana, are you seeing this? Dana, are you shouting with me? Dana, did you know who that is? Like, come on, Zoom. Back to our class. Hemostasis involves blood clotting. Thank you, Leo. What stays in anatomy, what happens in anatomy stays in anatomy. Good. All right. Natasha, it's not only clotting, because clotting is the third process of hemostasis, but that's one of them. Good. Shrey's got a full answer. Hemostasis, blood clotting related. Yes. Homeostasis, more than regulation of temperature, but remember keeping balance and maintaining equilibrium in your controlled conditions. And hemopoiesis, formation of all blood types. Correct. Oh, Natasha, you got it mixed up. You typed hemostasis. You mean hemostasis or homeostasis? Ah, you see how they're so close? All right, Princess said, homeostasis is a physical and chemical conditions maintained by living systems. Nice. Okay, okay, I know. Okay, reading through the chat. Okay, we got it now. All right, so hemostasis is what we're talking about today. That's stop the blood loss. Stop, stasis, blood. Okay, stop the flow of blood, not the flow of blood, the loss of blood. Homeostasis is maintaining that equilibrium or balance consistent with life, and hemopoiesis, formation of blood cells. Now, 3 processes or mechanisms that prevent blood loss from a damaged blood vessel. Number 1 is, they're not the same words, they're different words. That's what I want to show you. They're different words, they sound similar, they look alike. That's why you have to take your time and read them carefully. All right, the first step is vascular spasm. Excellent. So which tissue is responding to injury during vascular spasm? Which tissue within the blood vessel wall? Which, you guys have me laughing and crying all at the same time. Okay, the smooth muscle, Nini, thank you. The smooth muscle of the wall is contracting reflexively, and it causes the blood vessel to narrow, but also pulls the edges of the wound together. Okay, that's number 1. Following vascular spasm, the platelets that are just circulating in the blood, along with all the other formed elements. Good. No, platelet adhesion, Natasha, is the first step in the next mechanism, which is platelet plug formation. So if you're to summarize it, let me do an overview for you. How's that? Okay, so hemostasis involves 3 mechanisms, processes. I call them steps, but steps is a little misleading. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. So I need, good. Mechanism one is vascular spasm. Mechanism 2 is platelet plug formation, which has 3 steps. Number 1 is, so let's do this. Number 1 is what? What's the first step of platelet plug formation? Good. Platelet adhesion. Good. Marine. Good. Number 2. Oh, look at you guys. You're on fire. Platelet release reaction. Or degranulation, where the granules that store the chemicals inside the platelets release them. So it's degranulation. And number 3, ooh, oh, you guys are ready. Nice. Platelet, platelet aggregation. Okay, so we'll review those 3 steps in a minute. Thirdly, we have the next mechanism, which is what everyone knows when you think about stopping blood loss, and that is coagulation. Okay, good. And coagulation has 3 pathways. Where are they? Three pathways in the coagulation process. Intrinsic pathway, good, which is happening at the same time as the extrinsic pathway. And they both converge in the common pathway. Good. So that's your overview of hemostasis. 3 major mechanisms: vascular spasm, platelet plug formation, coagulation, and then there are sub-steps to each of those. All right, vascular spasm again is just reflexive contraction of a smooth muscle that pulls the edges of the wound together. As tissues are damaged, they also initiate platelet plug formation. All right, what's happening during platelet adhesion? Quickly summarize the adhesion step, please. Platelets stick to the damaged tissue. Nice, Eliza. And this is important to know, that platelets will stick to anything that's not smooth on the surface of the blood vessel wall. So the inner lining that surrounds the lumen is endothelial tissue. It's a single layer of smooth, what do you call those? Simple squamous cells. Simple squamous cells, right? They form a nice smooth lining. If there are collagen fibers sticking out because the wall is damaged, platelets will stick to that. If there's a buildup of fatty plaques or fatty streaks or an atherosclerotic plaque on the wall, platelets love to stick to those. Anything that's abnormal or creates a rough surface will trigger platelet adhesion. All right, the platelets then swell and begin to release their chemicals in the next step, which is platelet release reaction. All right, can you list some of the chemicals that are released from the internal granules of the platelets? Serotonin, good. Everyone remembers that one first. Not, is it thrombin? I'm gonna look that one up. Okay, I don't think thrombin is one. If you have well, I don't know, I'm just looking these up. I don't remember thrombin. I know there are factors that activate thrombin. Oh, I got a quiz on that. That's not what I was looking for. I have thromboxane A2. I got prostaglandins, yes. Okay, thromboxane, thank you, that works for me. Okay. Platelet-derived growth factor. One that we met in my other class is VWF, von Willebrand factor. Von Willebrand factor is defective in some genetic condition. I can't remember the name. But anything that interrupts the production of these factors will lead to impaired hemostasis. Now, interestingly, platelets express on their surface receptors for some of these factors, which leads to the positive feedback effect of platelet plug formation, or the positive feedback regulation. So the platelets release factors that bind to the platelets to stimulate further release and further aggregation. Some of these factors also feed back to support vascular spasm or trigger vascular spasm. And some of these factors promote coagulation, and some, like the platelet-derived growth factor and endothelial growth factors, these promote repair of the blood vessel wall itself. So the platelets are absolutely central to hemostasis. Okay, now let's finish this up, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about platelet deficiencies. Platelet aggregation is the third step. So the chemicals make the platelets more sticky and also cause them to release these chemicals. I don't know if I just made sense with what I said. The chemicals, let's do it again. The chemicals make the platelets more sticky, and then some of the chemicals, as we said, activate the other pathways. Now we got super sticky platelets. What's the third step? Platelet AGGRE aggregation. So now even more platelets from the circulation stick to this area of tissue damage and form a temporary plug that blocks the wall. Now, platelet plug is not very stable. So what is a more stable structure that develops to kind of pull the edges of the wound together, trap the formed elements, minimize blood loss? What's the third process or mechanism of hemostasis? Coagulation. Okay, so I kind of look at platelet plug as like taking a wad of bubble gum and sticking against a wall and hoping that nothing leaks out. It will stick for a little while, okay? But if you really want to repair something, you stitch the edges together and pull the thread tight. That's what a clot does. So let's use our whiteboard. You know what? The platelet plug is like duct tape, exactly. But duct tape holds everything. You know what? If we had duct tape, it wouldn't be so bad. Am I sharing my whiteboard with you? Thank you. All right, here we go. Coagulation. Okay, so coagulation, we have two pathways. What are those two pathways? Intrinsic and extrinsic. Good, let's compare them. Well, I don't know, what do you want to say? Which one, give me the factor that initiates the intrinsic pathway. Actually, it's not factor 3. I had to think about that. It's actually factor 12, because factor 12 is intrinsic to the blood. It's already in the blood. That's how I remember that one. I'm just going to write factor for this first one. After all, I'll just name them. Factor 12. Factor 12 is the one that is activated first by damage to the blood vessel wall or anything that's rough in the surface of the red blood cell. Okay, there we go. Now, what is the first factor in the extrinsic pathway? That's factor 3 or tissue factor, okay? Now, the easy way to remember this is that tissue factor comes from the tissues, which is outside of the blood, which makes it extrinsic to the blood. All right, Nini, well, that's a problem, right, Nini? If you mix it up on the test, you get the question wrong, blah, blah, blah. So good thing that we're practicing here. All right, which one is a shorter pathway? I think it only has one more factor, if I'm reading my notes correctly. The extrinsic one, yes, and it leads to activation of which factor? $10, good, but they're all Roman numerals, Eliza, so we use X, good. Excellent. Now, what is required for that pathway? Without naming the specific factors, what else is required? Calcium, there we go. Excellent. There we go. All right, now, in the extrinsic pathway, we have a few more factors involved. One of them is, let me throw it in here, factor 8. And I mentioned factor 8 because it is one that is genetically defective in a specific bleeding condition. Did you catch the name of it? Hemophilia A. All right. Now, do you know a family that has a history of hemophilia A? It's a famous family. Famous family has a history of hemophilia A. It's the British royal family. Exactly. And it's an X-linked recessive condition. So who is it going to be more likely to show up in? Sure, that's funny. Bloodline isn't so pure. Yes, who's more likely to develop hemophilia A? The males, right? Monteson. So it's high, and it skips a generation and it shows up in the males. And if you do a quick Google on it, you'll see that that is the case. Okay, so both pathways result in the formation of factor 10 activated, not formation, because remember the factor is already present, but they just need to be activated in a cascading manner. All right, factor 10 then combines with two other factors to form the first enzyme in the common pathway. So factor 10 will combine with, what color should I be using? Blue. Which factors? 5 and calcium. Oh, you give me all the answers, Nini. Good. This is too big. There we go. Factor 5 plus calcium combined with factor 10 give us a major enzyme, or the first enzyme in the common pathway. Is there anything missing between factor 12 and factor 8? Yeah, there's other factors. I'm just not listing all of them. Oh, do you want to know all of the factors? Are you up to it? Because you know there's at least 12. There's actually 13. Do you care to learn all of them, Shrey? Nee, that's not a dumb question. The factors are the substances that are activated in the pathway that lead to a clot formation. Most of the factors are proteins that are preformed, circulating in the plasma of the blood, but in their inactive form. Once there's damage to the blood vessel wall, these factors, mainly proteins, are activated in a cascading sequential manner. That's why we're using the arrows. So most of them are proteins. And since you mentioned it, Nini, let me just throw this in here. Most of the coagulation factors are synthesized. Let me say protein specifically. because in some notes they consider calcium a factor. So I can't just say proteins. Most of the proteins are synthesized by which organ? Anybody know? The liver. Thank you, Janice. And most require vitamin who for their synthesis? By the liver. Okay, that is correct. So now can you see the various ways that coagulopathies or bleeding disorders can develop? If there's a defect in any of these proteins, or they are absent or not produced enough, that can lead to a bleeding disorder. If there's inadequate vitamin K, that can lead to bleeding. There's always a risk of that in newborns. So in Ontario, they do provide vitamin K prophylactically to all newborns, okay? Because their liver isn't mature enough yet to make sufficient clotting factor. So before the baby bleeds out in their brain or in their joints, etc., they give them vitamin K to help them along. So you need vitamin K, you need a healthy liver, you need amino acids to make the proteins, right? And you need all of the genes that encode for all of these factors to be healthy. So that's why a defective factor VIII leads to hemophilia. All right, so somebody already filled this in for me. The next factor here is prothrombinase. And if you didn't know, you should have learned this last semester. Any word that ends in ASE, ASE, is what type of molecule? An enzyme. Yeah, you knew that. Look at my friends. Look at y'all. Excellent. So you know this is an enzyme. This enzyme is going to catalyze which reaction? It's going to convert what to what? Prothrombin to thrombin is correct. Anybody know what factor prothrombin is? It's factor 2. Okay, so prothrombin is converted to its active form, which is thrombin. So sometimes you see it in the notes as 2A, active form of prothrombin. Okay, I hope I didn't run out of space because I was drawing too big. Thrombin then converts what to what? I thought you guys would be ready for me. Fibrinogen, insoluble fibrin proteins, fibrinogen, factor 1, into soluble threads that make up your clot. And finally, yes, the common pathway is everything after factor 10. Some people actually include factor 10. Like factor 10 is the intermediate between the end of the intrinsic and extrinsic pathway and the beginning of the common pathway. So definitely in the common pathway. Thank you for answering for me, Veronica. All right, now, fibrin threads alone will not minimize blood loss. What has to happen to this clot? I don't think it activates factor 13, but factor 13 is activated and it then tightens the clot, right? That's right. Oh, how do you write 13? XIII. Factor 13 now comes in and tightens the clot. That it's like when do you guys sew? Does anybody here sew? Needle and thread. That's what I mean by sew, not throw seeds on the ground. I mean sew. You tried, Veronica? Very nice. So depending on what you're putting together, for example, if you're darting a tear in material, you usually don't just loose, maybe to start, but if you want it to really hold, you remember you pull the thread tight and then knot it. It's okay, Veronica, my mom's a seamstress, but I didn't get that gift. I can put a button on and sew up to a hole, but don't ask me to hem anything. It will not come out straight. Speaking of high school and whatnot, elementary school, I did take home ec when they had that course, home economics, and we were sewing track pants. But I wanted to make my track pants fancy. And we're talking about the late 80s, mid 80s now. So this is the time, now, I think pre-MC Hammer, okay? So I wanted my track pants to taper down to the bottom, yin. So I finished my project now, and I'm ready to put on my track pants. Could my foot go through the bottom of the pants? I tapered it so narrow that I couldn't get my foot through it. I know. I'm good for that. I'm good for that. My daughter laughs at me all the time because every now and then I do dumb things, just dumb stuff. Okay, what else we have here? That's it, everybody, coagulation. Now, I believe I made a mistake in my narrated PowerPoint. I called factor 13 Christmas factor. That is not true. Christmas factor is actually factor 9. Let me see if I'm right. Yes, factor 9 is Christmas factor. And as you can see from this, sorry, you're not looking at what I'm looking at. I'll show you a detailed view of hemostasis. So Shrey was asking about missing factors, right? The intrinsic pathway also requires calcium. I hope I threw that in my summary here. Did I not? Ooh, we got to put calcium here. Okay, so calcium is definitely involved in the intrinsic pathway as well. And calcium is also required for the further steps of the common pathway. Is that 14? All right, if you say so. Things are not lining up here and it's bothering me, but that's okay. We'll survive. There we go. Yes, so you need calcium. Anyways, back to this summary of hemostasis. So some of the other factors in an intrinsic pathway include factor 11, which has another name, you don't need to know it. Factor 9 is Christmas factor. Here is factor 8 coming in, as well as platelet membrane phospholipid. So that's a lipid, but it's not a protein, but it's considered a factor. Remember I said not all the factors are proteins. Okay, there's calcium again. That's where calcium comes into the intrinsic pathway. And these activate factor 10. For the extrinsic pathway, Shrey, as far as I can see, and you can verify this for me, you have tissue factor, and then you have factor 7, which is called stable factor, that lead to activation of factor 10. So that's a much shorter pathway. Now, I don't want you to memorize the factors that we didn't discuss in our narrations, etc. So here's another view. Okay, so you need to know factor 12 for the initial factor in the intrinsic pathway. We mentioned that factor 8 is in the intrinsic pathway. This would be easier to do if I was in my Zoom whiteboard, but let's try this. Okay. Format that. It's okay, use yellow, shape fill. Let's do no fill. There we go. Factor 8. No, sorry, that's factor 12. Here's factor 8. And results in activation of factor 10. Okay, that's your intrinsic pathway. And for the extrinsic pathway, Here's your tissue factor. There's factor 7. Or is that another protein? That might be another one. But there's your tissue factor. There's factor 7, and that activates factor 10. So it's a very simple pathway. And then in purple here, whoever was asking, we have the coagulation factors of the common pathway. So the intrinsic and extrinsic end with 10, and the common pathway begins with 10, if you will. Any questions? Oh, yes, let me go back to my whiteboard quickly and add one more thing. Which factor is key to the positive feedback regulation of clot formation and hemostasis in general? Which of these factors plays a positive feedback role? Thrombin, that is correct. So thrombin feeds back to enhance formation of prothrombinase. Thrombin A, enhances the steps, one of the steps of the intrinsic pathway. Thrombin promotes platelet plug release, or platelet release reaction. So let's just mention platelet plug formation. So all three of these enhance clot formation and hemostasis in general, but interestingly, thrombin regulates itself, or its effect, let's say that it regulates its effect by promoting the activation of which protein? We already did prothrombinase, so that's a positive feedback effect. But let's just say thrombin leads to clot formation, but thrombin activates a protein that breaks down clots. So it's kind of like negative feedback, Plasmin is correct. So it breaks down clots in a process of fibrinolysis. So this is important. The fact that coagulation and hemostasis is under positive feedback needs to be balanced by factors that break down clots, such as plasmin, as well as chemicals in the body that inhibit clot formation or inhibit platelet formation. Are you familiar with any of those? What are some natural anticoagulants? Heparin, yes, heparin is an intrinsic anticoagulant. I don't use the word intrinsic to confuse you. Intrinsic meaning that your body makes it, okay? And there's a whole pathway for that we didn't get into. For example, heparin activates antithrombin, and that inhibits thrombin formation. Okay, so that's how it works. We also have warfarin. Now, warfarin works over here in the liver to inhibit the synthesis of some clotting proteins. So warfarin takes a little longer to exert its effects. But once in the circulation, it acts as a blood thinner. Your body also makes antiplatelets. And then someone got smart and said, well, if the body can do this naturally, we can capture these effects in pharmaceutical preparations and administer them exogenously. So heparin can be taken as a medication. Warfarin is administered as Coumadin. That's the drug form of warfarin. You know that ASA or aspirin has an antiplatelet effect. It is given as a prophylactic blood thinner, if you will. Blood thinners is a very misleading term. So now that you're going to be nurses, you don't use it. I mean, that's what they will call it on the floor too. But blood thinners is too general. Like, what do you mean thin the blood? Are you decreasing the red blood cell count? Are you decreasing the viscosity? No, it's decreasing the formation of clotting factors or the inhibiting the coagulation pathway. Okay, and finally, a plasmin activator can even be administered in the event that someone is experiencing what? Are you familiar with that? When will tissue plasminogen activator be administered? Conditions where you want to break down a clot. Anybody? I got three. I got three conditions where tissue plasminogen activator, or the drug form plasmin, can be administered if a client is having an emergency, acute episode where you need to break down a clot. What kind of thrombosis, Mila? What might the clots be blocking? Give me three conditions that involve the formation of clots, the blockage of arteries, and impaired blood flow that we cannot wait around for the clot to be broken down naturally by fibrinolysis. We need to help speed up the clot breakdown. Not DIC, oh my gosh, DICs. I wasn't thinking that one, Natasha. And I wouldn't say that one, Natasha, because with DIC, okay, so DIC is disseminated intravascular coagulation, right? All right, deep vein thrombosis, Mila. Yep, especially if, yes, brain ischemia, yes. Deep vein thrombosis, maybe. If the clot travels to the lungs, it causes a pulmonary embolism for sure. And if the brain ischemia is occurring, that's a ischemic stroke. And one more place where a blood clot can lead to irreversible tissue damage and death. They do it in the States, not so much here, but it's potentially used. We must have talked about it. Come on, one more condition where a blood clot can lead to irreversible damage and death. Nobody? Myocardial infarction. Somebody give Sophie a cookie. Stroke, heart attack, and pulmonary embolism. Good job, girl. Nice. Okay, thank you, Leah. Good. All right, so keep those in mind. Keep those in mind. Speaking of mind, while I'm pulling up heart, because we have to finish soon. Yes, I gotta pull up heart. While we're doing the heart, I'm clearing the board. I had a friend who had a heart condition that required treatment with a left ventricular assistive device. So it kind of stimulated the left ventricle to pump out enough blood. Kidney failure in arena depends on the cause. It would have to be clot related in order to give a clot buster. And for example, you don't administer TPAs if the client is having a hemorrhagic stroke. So if a blood vessel bursts in the brain, leading to a stroke, you definitely don't give them TPA because you actually want a clot to form, right? So it depends on the situation. If kidney failure is due to an embolism, maybe. I'd have to look that one up. Okay, so I was telling my story. Was I telling Yeah. Yes, she had a left ventricular, she could trouble as emboli up to her brain and lead to an ischemic stroke. So to prevent that, they put her on anticoagulants. I got stuck, Shrade. I got stuck. They put her on anticoagulants. And do you know that while she was waiting for surgery to correct the LVAD, She had a hemorrhagic stroke. So she bled out in her brain. I know. So that led to the stroke sequelae. I know. And this is the thing, my friends, you have to know this as a nurse. You might have a medical condition that needs treatment or intervention, but every intervention comes with a risk of further complications. So I don't know if we discussed this, but remember we're talking about females have increased risk of urinary tract infections. Do you remember we said that? Yes. And now, if she's taking antibiotics for the bacterial urinary tract infection, that disrupts the bacteria of her normal flora and now increases the risk of developing what secondarily? Anybody? Okay, I'll give you a hint. A fungal infection, Alana, particularly in the vagina, and that's a vaginal yeast infection. So some doctors, while they're giving you the antibiotic prescription, are also giving you a prescription for the antifungals to treat the yeast infection, because it's almost inevitable that the treatment for the bacterial infection, the antibiotics, are going to cause a disruption in your bacterial balance that leads to a yeast infection. Every medical intervention comes with a risk of complications, and you need to be aware of that, nurses, right? You don't just put people, this is what's happening with COVID treatment. They put people on ventilators, pump up the oxygen and kill them. There's a pump up of the volume on stuff. You got to monitor, you got to anticipate and look out for potential reactions or complications. Oh my. Okay, Alana's sharing a story. My partner got a cut on her arm and went a little crazy with the polysporin and ended up getting a fungal infection on her arm. Okay, so the polysporin maybe killed off too many bacteria? Is that what you're thinking? And that led to a fungal, now that's rare. Wow. So when you said went a little crazy with the polysporin, you mean they over applied? Interesting. Oh my. Interesting. All right, friends, we are done with that topic. Let's get to the heart. Are you ready for the heart? Are you ready for the heart? Okay. Thanks for sharing that, Alana. I will share. No more polysporin. Just calm down with the polysporin, Leah. Leah, like if you're gonna cut, you just need a thin layer of the polysporin. No need to be squeeze the tube. You haven't looked at it yet, Shrey? Okay, Shrey, we're gonna learn together. Let's learn together. All right, friends. There's your heart. You have one. Quickly describe the. I know it's my fault. I posted the notes late. I apologize. But let's learn. All right. Where is your heart located? You already know this from first semester. Tell me what you know. Is it located left? Left of what? Left of Young Street? Left side of your head? Where's your heart? Good start, Leah. It's located in the thoracic cavity, left on Bathurst. Very nice. Actually, when you come into my house, you turn left off Bathurst. There you go. All right. I can't say anymore because V sounds like the kind of person that will look me up and show up at my house. So shh, no more information for V. Good. It's surrounded by the rib cage. Oh, Gabby, stalker status. I had one, but no more stories for you guys. No more stories today. The heart is located in the thoracic cavity. Thank you. Surrounded by the rib cage. So thank you, Yin. It is deep to the rib cage and protected by the rib cage. Wonderful. That's what my daughter says all the time. You can't start a story and not finish it. Shh, that one's for another day. And you guys are traumatizing me with all these memories right now. Oh, I like that word, Victoria. It is oriented obliquely. So the heart is like an inverted cone that's not sitting right on its tip. It is rotated so that most of the right side is showing, and then it's on an angle. So that's the oblique. Victoria, good word. Obliquely means on an angle. So it's not perpendicular to anything. It's on an angle. It runs through two planes. And that's why you cannot do a true frontal, no, you can't do a true sagittal section through the heart. It's not equal left and right halves when you cut through it because it's on an angle. Excellent. Thank you for that one, Victoria. Hello, where are the cookie dam? Cookies, cookies. Speaking of Jamaican accents, how many of you like our Premier Doug Ford for his attempt to encourage everybody to stay at home? Did you like that? Tanayayat! The French was horrible. I heard the Hebrew was horrible. You hated it. I loved him for it, Gabby. I liked it for, was it stay à la maison? The Hindi was horrid too, Shrey. Oh my goodness. At least he tried. That's what I say, Yin. That's what I say. À la maison. Yes, we should send him a cookie for trying. V, I agree. Okay, tell me which other language he totally massacred. Did he speak your language? Vietnamese was not bad. Okay, interesting. Good for him, good for him. But the 10 ayayad. Oh, that's so funny, so funny. Oh. Actually, speaking of 10 ayayad, let me see if I can share something with you. Guys, you got me going all over the place. We want to finish today, right? We don't want to fall too far behind. So give me just 30 seconds. If we can't do it in 30 seconds, we will skip it. I probably just deleted it. Okay, forget it. You want extra time for Kahoot? Who said we have time for Kahoot? I don't think about, Rob Ford would have given it, would have gotten it perfect. Oh, interesting. You think so? Yeah, Mika, because he's very in touch with the community and the different ethnic groups represented there. Maybe he would have gotten it right. Who knows? On Friday, Rosanna, you don't have class. You only have your test. You have your test. Yes. Okay, let's do the finish the heart. Now the heart sits on top of this large skeletal muscle. What's that muscle that lies inferior to the heart? The diaphragm. That is correct. Oh man, I just deleted that image from my files. Okay, that's all right. Good. And what else can we say about the heart? What is the space in which it is located? The space within the thoracic cavity. What do we call that space? Between the lungs, the mediastinum, very nice. The mediastinum, which is a space intermediate to the two lungs and between the sternum anteriorly and the vertebrae posteriorly. So in this transverse section, of the thoracic cavity, there is the heart located just posterior to the sternum, between the two lungs. So that's the mediastinum here. The mediastinum not only contains the heart, but also the vena cava, aorta, and the esophagus and the thymus. Thymus is probably more superior, so you wouldn't see it in this transection, okay? And there's your 6 vertebra posterior to the heart. Very nice. All right, I'm gonna go back to my whiteboard. I feel like drawing today. And you're gonna help me draw and label the heart. Art time, yay, Natasha. Okay, I hope I do a good job for you. Here we go. I am now going to draw the heart. It kind of looks like this. Ta-da! The heart. Cute, thank you. It's a pizza. Okay, Bob Ross. All right, friends. Now, what is the inferior tip of the heart called? That's the apex. Thank you, Lana. All right. Let me reduce my font a bit so we have enough room. That's the apex. Good. And then the superior flatter part of the heart is called what? The superior flatter part of the heart, remember it's an inverted cone. So the part that lies, that's not the clavicula, those lungs. More superiorly, not the aorta. If this is the apex, the other end is called the base. Base, that's the base of the heart. So that's a little weird that the base is superior and the tip or the apex is inferior. And then again, is it Natalie or Elizabeth? Who said it for me? Oblique. Who said oblique? Who said obliquely? Victoria, thank you. All right, Victoria mentioned that the heart is oblique so that the apex projects slightly to the left. That's why people perceive that the heart is on the left, but technically the heart is medial, okay? Good, thank you, Eliza. You took the word right out of my mouth. Good, now let's look at the connective tissue sac that surrounds the heart. What is it called? Connective tissue sac around the heart is the pericardium. Good. And the pericardium has 3 layers. Okay, so right now I'm drawing the thick outermost layer, the most superficial layer, thick, dense, regular connective tissue, I'm guessing. All right, what's this called? That's the fibrous pericardium, correct. And then deep to it, we have 2 layers of the serous membrane. Let's draw. Okay, we have the layer that's fused to the fibrous pericardium on the inner surface. That is called, you don't know which one that is? That is the parietal one, that is correct. So it's the more superficial of the 2 serous membranes, but it clings to the inner surface and is fused to the fibrous pericardium. I'm doing this quickly because of time. There you go. Oh, that's nice. That deserves a cookie right there. My goodness. What do you think, Shrey? Not bad, eh? Thank you, Natasha. So the serous pericardium has 2 layers. We have the more superficial parietal pericardium. Somebody's a Mac user and wants to find the emojis. Okay, then we have the deepest layer, which I already drew, technically. What's this layer called? The visceral pericardium. All right. So the deepest layer of the pericardium is actually the outer layer of the heart. So this, sorry for that, not too bad. This is the visceral pericardium. Yes, you did. Did I teach you that, Natasha? Oh, yes, we did. Okay, and what's the space between them called? It's filled with pericardial fluid. It's filled with pericardial fluid, but the space is called the pericardial cavity. Good. All right. Now that pericardial fluid does what? What's its purpose? What was that you were trying to do, Yin? That looks like a very nice rectangle. It provides lubrication. That's right, Shrey. So it allows the heart to move within the pericardial cavity freely without friction. Now, you guys are young, but there are individuals that experience, for my friend just the other day, just before Christmas, experience inflammation around the heart in that pericardial cavity. What's that called? Inflammation within that space. It's not angina. So angina alana is due to ischemia of the heart tissue. It does manifest as chest pain, right? So to be honest, my friend, when they described his symptoms, that's the first thing I said to check for, because I think I'm some fancy nurse, right? Anyways, you know, did they do the blood work? Did they look for signs of angina or myocardial infarction? No, it wasn't angina, but it feels the same or similar. But it was pericarditis. Yes, but Noreen, it could have been heartburn too. It could have been heartburn, which is gastric reflux, which has nothing to do with the heart, but it's pain experienced in that same epigastric region or chest region, not epigastric per se, okay? So this inflammation is called pericarditis, correct? You guys are giving me all kind of words right now, very nice. Now, what I drew here is not anatomically correct because this is not really that big of a space. The visceral layer and the parietal layer are very close to each other and separated by a thin layer of pericardial fluid. But if there is fluid accumulation in this area, it's called pericardial effusion. Effusion. Effusion refers to the accumulation of a fluid in an anatomical space, anatomic space. Okay, so pericardial effusion is, or pleural effusion is what it's also called, is a buildup of fluid in that, sorry, not pleural effusion, that would be around the lungs. This is pericardial effusion, okay, in that cavity around the heart. Now, let's label the layers of the heart. What's the outermost layer of the heart called? Epicardium. All right, so depending on where the fluid is accumulating, Victoria, it has different names. So if it's accumulating in an anatomical space, such as the pleural cavity or the pericardial cavity or the peritoneal cavity, it's called effusion. Edema is an accumulation of fluid around the cells of the tissue or within the cells of a tissue. That's edema. Is that clear? Yin, is that good? You're welcome, good. So we have the epicardium, but wait, I labeled that the visceral peritoneum. Did I make a mistake? Did I make a mistake? Sherry says, no, they're the same thing. Thank you. So Sherry, you know something, man. You know a few things. Yes, the visceral pericardium, which is the deepest layer of the pericardium, is technically the same as the outer layer of the heart, which is called the epicardium. You are correct. Okay, I'm going to draw the next layer, which is deep to the epicardium. This accounts for 90–95% of the thickness of the heart wall. I don't have time to draw it showing 90% of the thickness, but let's give it a little more thickness. What's this layer called? You've been paying attention? Good. This is the myocardium. That is correct. Okay, one more layer to make it nice and thick. If you're from Kingston, you say thick. Okay, so what type of muscle tissue is this, by the way? Tick. No H, no H. Type of muscle, cardiac muscle, of course. That's your cardiac muscle, only found in the wall of the heart or the myocardium of the heart. Good. Cardiac muscle. And then the myocardium is lined, this is not it, is lined with endothelial tissue. What color should I use? What color should I use? Let's do, I don't know, green? All right, just for orange. All right, so this is a thin inner lining of each chamber of the heart. What's this called? Probably the endocardium, and you are correct. Shrey's using his noggin. All right, again, for time, I can't draw it as pretty as it should be, but this is the inner surface of the heart. It lines all the cavities. It's the layer in contact with the blood. This is your endocardium. There are 4 chambers of the heart, Natasha. There are 4 chambers. And it's one continuous thing. Like I drew them as 4 distinct compartments, but they're connected in a way. Lines the inner surface of each. Is that clear? And the endocardium is continuous with the, am I there? Okay. Hey, I'm back. The endocardium lines the inner surface of each chamber. It is also continuous with the endothelial lining of all the blood vessels taking blood into and out of the heart. Okay, so here are the layers of the heart and the pericardium. Good. That's what that should look like. Excellent. Now, let's add, because of time, woo, gotta fly. Let's add the major blood vessels, shall we? Bringing blood into and out of the heart. And just to clear up the diagram a bit, I'm just gonna remove the pericardium. I can stay. Okay, good. Now, what are the 2 blood vessels that bring the oxygenated blood from the tissues of the body back into the heart? Okay, so we're talking about blood vessels, arteries and veins, Alana. What are these 2 big ones that bring the oxygenated blood? You know what, before we do that, let's do the chambers of the heart. Let's name the chambers. Let's name the chambers. Okay, that's very important. So Natasha, the heart has 4 chambers, 4 rooms, if you will. What's this one? It's an upper chamber. Right where my cursor is. Is that a ventricle? Which are the upper chambers, the receiving chambers? These are atria. So this is the right atrium. That's the right atrium. That's okay. We're learning together. Now you'll never forget, Natasha. That's the right atrium, okay? And beside it is the upper chamber. What's this one? Left atrium. And those that didn't get to look at this yet, the 2 lower chambers are called ventricles. Those are called ventricles. What should we name this one? Really, what should we call this one? The right ventricle. not recreational vehicle, right ventricle. And what should we call the one adjacent to it? The left ventricle. And note that we're referring to the heart as viewed in an, what do you call this? Anatomical position. So this is an anterior view. Anterior view. So it's very important that you note that when you're looking at somebody else's heart or a heart on a diagram, you assume anatomical position so that this is the right side of the heart and this is the left side. You have to have that as your starting point, okay? Are we good so far? Okay. Which are the receiving chambers? The receiving chambers, receiving chambers. They receive blood coming back into the heart. Yeah, okay. So those are the atria. They receive blood returning back to the heart. And inferior to the atria, we have the ventricles. I hope no one calls them ventricles. I heard the scientists describing COVID as COVID-19. Why? Because you have to be phonetically correct. Everybody else in the world is calling it COVID-19, but you have to call it COVID because there's no E. My goodness. Get over yourself. Ventricles. These are the inferior chambers. And these do what to the blood? They send out the blood, Natasha. That's right. These are the pumping or ejecting chambers. Now, all the chambers contract and pump, but the atria pump blood down into the ventricles. And then when the ventricles contract, they pump blood up out of the heart. Excellent. Okay, let's do this quickly. Now, we started to draw two major veins that bring the oxygenated blood back to the heart on the right side. That's it, Noreen. Noreen is ready for this. These are the superior and inferior vena cava. These are the largest veins in your body. Vena cava, vena cava. You heard of these, Shrey? Good, this is superior vena cava. And down below, returning blood from the lower limbs and the abdominal pelvic region, we have the inferior vena cava. Oh, let me. Nice, 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 nice. Good. I love the way they labeled them. Isn't that cool? At least something here makes sense. Well, this is good. At least they call this the right atrium and the left atrium. Right ventricle, left ventricle. All right. In a healthy heart, does blood ever flow from the right atrium to the left atrium? You're guessing no. That is correct because there's a muscle wall between them. This is the interatrial septum. Oh, disgusting. No. Here, there we go. This is your interatrial septum. When it crosses, Natasha, can someone help me answer that while I finish drawing here? Help Natasha. What happens if there's a hole in the passageway and blood flows either right to left or left to right? Anybody? You get a mix. Thank you. Oh, Abdullah, thank you for throwing in. That might be your first time ever. Everyone welcome Abdullah. Yes, yes. Wonderful. Who? Yes, you get a mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. So it interrupts the normal flow of blood. Yes, it will cause a heart murmur, which is turbulent blood flow. And they have to patch it if it doesn't close within a year postpartum. Now, there was a hole during fetal development called the foramen ovale. No, help me. Maybe Abdullah has to help me with this one. The foramen ovalis, thank you. And when it closes, it leaves a little depression called the fossa ovale. Look them up in your notes. Okay. Thank you, Yin. Very nice, very nice. Do you know anyone that's born with a hole in the heart? Do you know, have you ever heard of that? When they refer to a hole of the heart, hole in the heart, it's usually when that foramen ovalis doesn't close properly. It can lead to blue babies, but we won't talk about that today. Okay. What else we have? Other major blood vessels. Okay. What is a major blood vessel taking blood out of the right ventricle towards the lungs? Not the aorta, but you're in the right. You're thinking about it correctly. What's this? Ooh, that got kind of narrow. What? Let me redraw that. Okay, this is the pulmonary trunk first, and then it branches into the left and right pulmonary arteries. Okay, so first we're going to label the pulmonary trunk. I don't know if I'm in the right color blue right now, but we'll figure it out. Let's do this one. I love the colors that we can use here. All of you that hated Zoom, you need to apologize. Look at all the fun we're having. Sorry, Zoom. Good. And then the pulmonary trunk branches into the left and right pulmonary arteries. Okay, which one am I labeling right now? This is the right or left? You still miss Blackboard V? Oh, hush. We'll switch back maybe after the break. That is the right. You figured it out. Now, question for you. Do the pulmonary trunk and right and left pulmonary arteries carry oxygenated or deoxygenated blood to the lungs? We have two answers. We have oxygenated, deoxygenated. It can't be both. It's either low in oxygen or high in oxygen. Which one is it? Shrey is guessing. Elisa is guessing. Noreen is guessing deoxygenated. You are correct. Because remember we said the vena cava are bringing blood back from the tissues of the body? So that's venous blood. That's the oxygenated blood. That's low in oxygen. It passes from the right atrium down into the right ventricle, and the right ventricle pumps that blood up through the pulmonary trunk and pulmonary arteries to the lungs. I also drew it blue. Yes. Now, blood is never blue, by the way. It's either bright red, which is oxygenated, or deep red, which is deoxygenated. But whenever they draw the diagrams, they always use blue because deoxygenated blood can look a little purplish. No, it doesn't. It's just dark. Okay. So your blood is never blue. It's either bright red or low or deep red. Okay, excellent. Now, blood coming back from the lungs. First of all, what's happening in the lungs? Okay, that blood goes up to the lungs. What's going to happen in the lungs? Anybody? What happens to the blood as it moves into the lungs? Gas exchange. So oxygen is loaded into the blood, carbon dioxide is removed, and now we have freshly oxygenated blood returning from the lungs to the heart via 4 blood vessels called, anybody? I try to draw them here. I'll draw 2 of them. They're leading right into the right, sorry, the left atrium, and they are called the pulmonary veins. You are correct. Okay, so this is a little mixed up, right? You probably grew up thinking that veins carry what? Veins are blood vessels that carry blood towards the heart, while arteries are blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. Now, with respect to the pulmonary circulation, which we just outlined on the right side of the heart, the veins carry the deoxygenated blood and the arteries carry the oxygenated blood. But for the rest of the body, most of the rest of the body, arteries carry oxygenated blood, veins carry deoxygenated, but that's not always the case, okay? So remember, arteries carry blood away from the heart, veins bring blood into the heart. Okay, so those are your pulmonary veins right there. So they're bringing oxygen-rich blood into which chamber? The left atrium, thank you, which I cannot select right now, but you get the idea. Good. And that blood is going to flow from the left atrium into the left ventricle. And now, I'm probably going to regret that I colored in the pulmonary trunk, but we will attempt to now draw which blood vessel? The aorta. Okay, wish me luck. So I know it goes from the left. Okay, kind of goes, yeah, is it behind or in front of? I'm gonna cheat. Okay, I'm good, I'm good. Behind, yeah, here. Where's my whiteboard? I lost it. Okay, it's gonna go behind. It's gonna come out over here, and then it's gonna pass over, and then behind. And then it's gonna come up here, and then, what? My goodness, all those years in art school really paid off. Thank you. That's what Princess says. Arteries take blood away from the heart, veins carry blood to the heart. Thank you so much, Princess. That's very helpful. Very helpful. All right, so this, my friends, is the largest artery in your body. It is the aorta. Does it carry oxygenated or deoxygenated blood out of the heart? Noreen got a cookie or something? I don't know. Good. Oxygenated. Very nice, Alana. Okay, so let's label that. Got a little carried away with my drawing there. Which part of the artery is this? The artery has 3 parts. The one going up out of the left ventricle towards. Is that with an accent, Sheree? That's the, well, not the arch yet, Abdullah. The one going up, that's right. The ascending aorta, very good. Beautiful. And then, Abdullah, here's your, this is your arch. Actually, maybe a little closer, like here, there. That's the aortic arch. Very nice. And then the last part of the aorta takes blood down through the thoracic cavity into the abdominal pelvic cavity. Thank you. I think it looks good too. That's the descending arch, or descending aorta. Very nice. Okay, we're almost done. We maybe should add the 3 major blood vessels branching off of the aortic arch. Abdullah, what do you think? Where are these 3 main arteries that branch from the arch of the aorta? Okay, on the far right, it's taking blood. Yeah, warts, I'm sure. I think they did pretty all right. Not like the person that named the genes in fruit flies. Anybody study fruit flies? They have names like hedgehog and Sonic Hedgehog. Yeah, that's what somebody decided to name the genes in fruit flies. I think they were bored grad students who played too many video games. All right, Abdullah or somebody, help me with the name of these arteries, please. Time is going. This is a big one. No awards for the other ones, Natasha. That's why, my friend, it's very important to know your etymology. Anyone, the one on the left, is that the carotid? No, Sheree, the one in the middle is the carotid. The one on the right, which we are looking at now, is called the brachios. Is that how you spell brachial? Yes. Cephalic trunk, because it's taking blood to which two parts of the body? Brachiocephalic. Where's it going? Thank you, Abdullah. Abdullah? I'm guessing Abdullah? COVID. Brachiocephalic artery or trunk. The name will tell you which two parts of the body you're going to get blood from this major artery. Which two parts of the body? Hello, etymology. Break up the word. The head or the brain. Good. As well as the preet. Good. You got the head and the neck. But what about the brachial part? Which upper extremity? Left or right? The name doesn't tell you that, but the location. The right upper limb. That is correct. Okay. Then we have the one going up the middle here, Shrey. This is the left common carotid. There you go. I always think carotid sounds like a cuss word, but it's not. Carotid. Leah, do not judge me. Okay, that's the left common carotid. There you go. And it's called the left common carotid because the right common carotid branches off the brachiocephalic trunk. Finally, I hope I can label it. Whoops, you stay there. You move down. Nice, nice. Good. And you, next one. Can't get him. Okay, I'm going to try to add one more in the middle here. This one to the left. This one to the left is the, who knows their arteries? Anyone know this one on the left of the common carotid? That is the left subclavian. Thank you, Laura. Left subclavian artery. It runs under the clavicle and is taking blood to the left upper extremity. There's a left subclavian because on the right side, there's a branch off the brachiocephalic, which is the right subclavian. So that brings blood to the right upper extremity, and the left subclavian brings blood to your left upper limb. Beautiful. All right, friends, we're almost done with this drawing, but we're almost out of time. Oh my gosh, we need 4 valves. 4 valves. And I hope they will show up if I color them. Let's try red. Valves, open and close to direct the blood flow through the heart and out of the heart. Okay, I'm going to draw it. You tell me what to call it. I need this valve on the right side between the right atrium and the left, sorry, the right atrium and the right ventricle. What's the name of this valve? That is the tricuspid. Very good. Okay, the tricuspid valve is also known as the right atrioventricular valve. So the atrioventricular valves separate the atria from the ventricles on the same side. So on the left, we have another atrioventricular valve. This one here, it has 2 flaps. It's called a bicuspid, 2 cusps. The bicuspid, also known more commonly as, anybody? The mitral? Come again. Mitral valve, that's it. Good. Very nice. Mitral? You're rescinding all of the awards. Why? Oh, can someone tell Sheree why it's called the mitral valve? Does anybody know? Anybody? Because it looks like something. Nobody at all. It looks like the mitre, which is the cap that bishops wear in the Anglican and Catholic Church. Looks like the mitre. Let me see if I can put up a real picture, a quick picture really quickly. Okay, sharing it with you in 30 seconds, just so you can have a quick look. That is a mitre hat. So it has these two peaks on it. So that's what it reminded the person that first discovered this valve, and that's why they call it the mitral valve. The causity, you can't. Oh, that's how it goes. That's how it goes sometimes. Okay, beautiful. What are my two remaining valves? I need the one from the right ventricle to the pulmonary trunk. What's that called? The pulmonary valve. Laura, that was easy, and you got it. All right, so that's a pulmonary valve. Which is the right semilunar valve. Good. And on the left side, separating the left ventricle from the aorta is the aortic valve. So Sheree, are the words back on? These ones kind of make sense, right? They all but one get an award. Good. Okay, now I labeled the interatrial septum. So to be complete, let's label this thick interventricular septum, which is an important structure. It's a muscle wall between the two ventricles. And what lies in the interatrial septum? If you read ahead, you know this one. Some special tissue, still bitter about the mitral valve. And it's more commonly known as a mitral valve. Nobody calls it the bicuspid, really. You hear about mitral valve prolapse or mitral valve stenosis. Nobody calls it the bicuspid. So the mitral stuck. How much time do we have? People? None? Little? A minute? I think we're out of time. Oh my gosh, we're supposed to do a test review. Guys, you're still not stop me. Oh my goodness. Okay, we're gonna quit this. So I'll pick this up next class. Okay, I didn't do the valves. No valves. We'll do that next class. Okay, thank you for your patience with that. You know what we used up a lot of time doing? Talking. About school and whatnot. Thank you. Whew, that was a fun class. Here we go. Are you seeing the test breakdown? Are you seeing the test breakdown? Yes, good. Okay. So I think it's a total of 55 marks. And what else? You're the social butterfly block. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Okay. So the three diagrams that might show up, let me quickly show those to you. We have the male reproductive system, lateral view. That's the first diagram I showed you and told you might be on your test. So I remove all the labels and I replace it with 1, 2, 3 or ABC. And then I ask you to identify structures based on their names or their functions. So if I say, which label points to the site of spermatogenesis, you would look for the label that's pointing to what? The testes, right? Stuff like that, okay? So you're gonna relate the functions to the anatomical structures on this diagram. So don't just go around and label the diagram when you practice it. But as you label, write down the functions of each structure, okay? For the female, I need a girl. Is this a girl? That looks like a girl. Okay, for a female, this is the lateral view of the female structures, okay? So I might ask you a question like, which structure in the female, or in this diagram, is homologous to the spongy penile tissue? It might be multiple choice for the diagram, Shrey. Diagram's going to be multiple choice. All right, so back to my question. Which structure here is homologous to the spongy tissue of the penis? And you would have to look for the label pointing to the... Oh, sorry. Shrey answered for me. Thank you for the question, Laura. Shrey, thanks for answering. Good. Okay. Yes, I'm looking for the tissue that is homologous to the penis with respect to spongy tissue. It engorges with blood during sexual arousal in the female. UV would have to find the clitoris. There it is. Okay. So go to that table that compares the homologous and analogous structures between the male and the female. If I ask for the site of oogenesis, you have to find the label pointing to the ovary. Okay. The structure that produces a fluid that blocks the opening to the uterus. The structure that produces the fluid that blocks the opening to the uterus. Which structure would you have to identify? The cervix, Shrey. Veronica, you got it. So find the cervix, okay? And the other diagram is the anterior view. Same type of questions. Here you can add the ligaments to that discussion, okay? What is the function of the structure labeled R? What is a function? What are the functions of the structure labeled R? What would you look for in your answer? Stimulate the penis during intercourse. Good. What else? It's for the man. B. Anything else, people? Rugi are for more than just sex. They expand the birth canal, correct, as well as the vagina during intercourse. Excellent. Okay, back to the breakdown. Your short answers. Here you're going to be comparing a male and a female. What could you compare? How the hormone levels differ or fluctuate, positive feedback versus negative feedback. You could compare the number of gametes produced per original primary gametic cell. You could compare the timing of events, the requirements for completion of each step. So much to compare between male and female. Now, friends, when you do comparison questions, you describe what happens in one. To get full marks, you must also describe what happens in the other. And to get full marks, your comparisons have to align. For example, you can't say that the male produces 300 million sperm per day, and the female requires fertilization to produce an ovum. Both statements are correct, but they're not comparable. So if you're going to talk about number of cells produced in the male, I need to know how many cells are produced in the female and at what rate. So V, if you're saying 300 million sperm are produced in the male per day, a comparable in the female would be what? Sure, you're almost there, but not accurate. Does a female produce one ovum per cycle? And per cycle, you'd have to give me a time. You'd have to say per month. Okay, but is that still completely accurate? What is a little off about that? Not the 28 days. No, not the timing. So you'd have to give me a comparable time, right? The answer is secondary oocyte. That is correct, Alana and Shrey. So a female produces one secondary oocyte per month, while a male produces 300 million sperm per day. That's comparable. That's like, that blows my mind, because now I'm seeing, oh my gosh, that's a whole lot versus a whole little. So what is the ovum? Help me, friends, what's the ovum? If you wanted to if you want to compare sperm to ovum, male produces 300 million sperm per day, while a female produces 2 to 3 ova in a lifetime, Natasha, right? Depending on how often she becomes pregnant or fertilized. Depends, right? So you might want to put that in as a disclaimer. Her choice. I like that, Natasha. Okay, there you go. Okay. What's the difference between ovum and zygote? The ovum is a haploid gametic cell for the female. The zygote is the fertilized ovum, which is now diploid. So it has all 46 chromosomes, half from the male's sperm and half from the ovum. So they call the fertilized ovum the zygote. So the ova is a pre-zygote in a way. Kind of, sort of, yes, because the way they describe it, by saying that the ovum is a fertilized zygote, it's actually true anatomically, because all the male is contributing is what? The ovum becomes a zygote once the male contributes his chromosomes, but everything else came from the female. Good, good, good. All right, let's compare male and female sexual response real quick. Okay, can a female experience an erection PSNS phase? Yes, that would involve the same nitric oxide release, vasodilation in the spongy tissue, engorgement of the clitoris and other vulval structures with blood. So female can experience that. The arousal is a little different. I mean, you know, smell, voice, imagining, all that's good. But believe me, a female has to be psychologically in the place. A male could just, you just bump them and they're, with females, they got to be in the mood. But that's a different story altogether. Now, you wouldn't know, Yin. Mika, I like that. Now, can a female experience a SNS, ejaculation, orgasmic phase? Don't be shy now. Yes. So a female can be stimulated sufficiently to move from the PSNS into the SNS phase. Females do ejaculate. They don't really call it that, but females have release from their reproductive glands as well. Okay. Now, what is the main difference between the male and the female with respect to these phases? What is the main difference? And I know I'm into overtime, but thank you for taking. For a female, it might take longer. Yes. The male ejaculate contains sperm and the female doesn't. That's very good, Veronica. I love that one. That's good. And Noreen, that's exactly where I was going. Okay, so the male has a longer refractory period. It's very nice to raise. While a female can have multiple orgasms in one sexual encounter. These are great. Noreen gets the $1 million prize. Males need to ejaculate in order for fertilization to occur, but females do not. Or female's release of her gametes, the oocytes, is not tied to her sexual activity. So much so that a female can become pregnant if she's fast asleep or unfortunately incapacitated by drugs. All right, so Noreen is saying, imagine if they needed to be there. There wouldn't be any people in the world, Noreen. There would hardly be any births. There'd be 3 people. I'm not laughing. Okay, let's move on. Oh, was I frozen? I'm glad you missed all of that. Hello, am I back? Am I back? Yes, okay, good. Now, fertilization and implantation, the steps of fertilization, the timing of fertilization, the requirements for fertilization, what else? Capacitation, the stages of the zygote becoming the blastocyst, the timing, where implantation occurs, why a female can't get pregnant while she's pregnant, why, what else? She doesn't menstruate while pregnant. Those kind of tie into the hormones as well as this area here, fertilization and implantation. What's happening that changes her body's physiology? Twins might show up in that question. Okay. Gestational development, anything from embryo to birth. Okay, the changes that are occurring, the timing of those major events. And then with blood groups and donation, the multiple choice question will be, type A can safely receive blood from who? But in the short answer, you have to explain the why. Why is it safe for type A positive to receive type A negative? That's a different blood type, but why is that safe? So you have to explain the presence of the antigens and the presence or absence of the antibodies that could or could not lead to a reaction. So those are two keywords. Thank you, Shrey, because you all stayed and accommodated all my stories today. I will give that to you as a hint. In your answer on the blood group types and donation, you should be using the words antigen, antibody, and maybe immune response in there. Okay? Nice. Yes, Princess, that's what happens when you come to my class, especially when I had 2 cups of tea and a cup of coffee. I just and give away all the content for the test. Okay, don't forget the bonus questions, right? So you want to give yourself enough time to get through the multiple choice, give yourself sufficient time to answer the short answers, and then get to the bonus questions at the very end. Bonus questions, Yin, are usually, Shrey, what are some bonus questions? Whatever we talked about that's way like a tangent kind of thing. Like today we talked about Lorraine's prom, right? And my mushroom style hair. And we talked about hemophilia A, right, in the royal family. And we talked about TPA being used to treat strokes. And we talked about pericurly fusion. Yes, anything that we talked about in class is usually the content for the bonus. And it could be silly stuff. It could be related to the biology. Oh, what is Lorraine's favorite Starbucks drink? We didn't discuss that this semester. And remember, it's random as to which question you get. So go back and review the content. Last class, I'm looking at babies from bone marrow. Did we clarify that? We're not there yet. What background did I have in week 2? That's good. Which background did I have each week? Those are good questions. Yeah. Those type of questions, okay? Remember, you asked for them. Celebrate good times. Come on, baby. Right? Don't give me any more ideas. Bubblegum versus duct tape. Oh my goodness. Very nice. All those terminologies I gave you, anything that was scientific, a definition, those kind of things, those might show up as your bonus questions. Can one of the questions ask what week V asked about the sperm face mask? Oh my gosh. I don't know what week we asked about it, but I don't know, V. I don't think I put that one in my notes because that kind of, What did Lorraine make her prom date give her before the prom? Oh my gosh. The sharpener, the fight. Yes. All those kind of things. You guys are so much fun. Track pants. Well, that's all from today. What about the previous weeks? Tapered pants. Are you going to ace this test? Of course. No cap, Princess says. And I happen to understand what that means. Good for you. All right, everybody. Any more questions? Anything else you want me to go over? My mom's a seamstress. There you go. No capillaries. Where is that, Rosanna? Oh, no cap. That's not what it means. You guys got me again. Vibes. By the way, I know what this means too. YKTV. I had to learn it though. Thanks, Gabby. Any other questions? Anything else you want to go over? No, V, that wouldn't be a bonus question because people know that outside of class. You just learned that. There you go. There you go. There you go. Everything good? Because we did hemostasis. We did inheritance, vena cava. Yeah, but that was week 4, so I wouldn't really put that on the test. Yeah, nothing from week 4 material. I wouldn't put that on this test. Okay, so anything from weeks 1, 2, or 3 will be on the, can be on the test. And remember, everybody gets a randomized test. So unfortunately, you might not get the question you want, but it's there. It's right here in the breakdown tray. 6 short answer marks. How many questions? It's 3 or 4. You get 2 bonus questions. You cannot backtrack. And you have to answer your questions before the time is up. We will be starting our test at 8:30. I will put an announcement up with all the details around the test protocol. You will have 85 minutes, whatever that works out to. The short answers are at the end, and then the bonus questions follow the short answers. So again, you want to pace yourself through the multiple choice, matching, etc., so that you don't spend any, you shouldn't be spending more than a minute on a multiple choice question, okay? Sheree did the math for me. So we should finish around 9:55. Is that enough time? Yes, because we usually would go a little later. So that should be fine for everybody. That's perfect, actually. That's perfect. Kind of perfect. Almost perfect. Almost perfect. Good stuff. Okay, and since you're all here still? Wow, you guys are awesome. That's fine. Now, what was I saying? Please do not be late for your test, okay? If you're having internet connectivity issues, you need to email me right away. So this is what happens, right? Students would tell me, oh, Miss, my internet was down. That's why I didn't tell you that my internet was down. Guess when they're telling me? After the test. So if you were able to get into the test, that means your internet was back up and you could have emailed me. So no sneaking into the test late, people. It really irritates me. And then other parts of me come out. Okay, number 2, make sure you have a secure internet connection. Number 3, I'll be monitoring my email. So if you have any issues with respect to connectivity, you email me right away. But you cannot just, sneak in an hour late. I'm not going to mark your test. Okay, so somebody got a 0 last semester, and that's too bad. So if you have to put on your mask and sneak off to grandma's house to use her internet and her Wi-Fi, do what you must do. Anything else? You cannot be more than 15 minutes late, or I'm not going to mark your test unless you can contacted me about the issue. Anything else? Yes, this is the other side of the rain coming out now. You see my face? That's what's coming out there. I love you guys. You're awesome. You make me smile every time we meet. Have a good week. Finish up all your projects. Get those quizzes done. No, Rosanna, I closed the black, so it doesn't mark it right away because I have short answers. So you will not see your multiple choice right away. Give me about a week to mark your tests, okay? You're my fave, Mila, sure. You're welcome, Eliza, good to have you. Rosanna, good. Take care, everybody. Thank you, thank you. Lana, thank you. Victoria, Laura, Yin, Pavri, Princess, Noreen, Wendy, hey, Abdullah, good to have you throw in today. Thank you. Good job, everybody. Take care. Thank you, Veronica. Lynn, good to have you. Favor, hey, Sophia, good to have you. Leah, thank you. Shh. Everybody, take care, take care, take care. All right, love, good to have you. And Princess. Is it love or lovely? Looks like it's love. Love. Yes. Princess. You know the vibe. I surely do, my dear. I try. I try. Oh, let me stop the recording.